Welcome to the Wings Event Center, the Kalamazoo Curling Club here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. The 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. 16 teams are competing for the right to represent the United States at the 2023 World Mixed Doubles Curling Championships in Gangneung, South Korea. Welcome back to Kalamazoo. This is Tyler George in the booth, joined by good friend Vince Skebby. Vince, good to have you here with me.
Thanks, Tyler. Really happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. Excited to watch some curling tonight.
Vince, kind enough to join me up here after playing in a draw earlier today. You may have a bunch of draws with other players in the booth this week. Vince is going to set the bar for the rest of them right now.
I'm going to try my best, but no promises.
Here you see the standings from draw number 1 from Pool 1. Fountain Cott, Geving Schuster, Hamilton, and Persinger Plies all get their first win. Burr, Moores Wheeler, Rhymes Smith, and Rohrbacher Skebby 0-1 after one draw. And for Pool 2 here, you see the 8 teams that will be competing this evening. I'll show you the draws, where each team will be competing, who they'll be playing against. Our feature game for the night will be Sarah Anderson and Andrew Stopera facing off against Chase Sinnett and Sydney Mullaney. I promise that Chris and Vicky are probably somewhere not in the arena this evening. So Vince, the ice looked pretty consistent for the first draw. A lot of curl with a little bit of weight sensitivity, but the amount of curl bodes very well for a mixed doubles tournament, with getting enough curl that you can make a lot of the shots needed to compete in a mixed doubles tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of curl. We were expecting probably anywhere between 5 and 6 feet of curl for our draw shots. We unfortunately fell into the rookie trap of the rocks behaving very differently during practice than they did in our first draw. So it did not quite go our way there.
Yeah, and that's something that you consistently see with major competitions. The ice always curls more, especially with hits, when you're playing in that warm-up practice than it does when you get to the game. So I put that on coaches, obviously, to let you know ahead of time. Yeah, that's something that you'll almost always see in any long competition when you have that pre-event practice, that the amount of curl is less, especially with those hits once you get to the first games. But again, we talked in Denver about the same thing that we mentioned for the first draw here, for the first pool, that the first game is really where you're just trying to get a feel for the conditions. You're not as concerned about win-loss. If you can get a win in that first draw, it's like a bonus win, where if you don't get the win, you're still learning about what the ice is going to be like for the weekend. If you can pull off that win, then you feel like you're one ahead of the field. But we always put less stock in that one than we did in the rest of the games.
Yeah, and that was our mindset when we stepped off the ice. This was, for me personally, this was my first time stepping foot on national championship ice. So it was everything was all about learning and making the adjustments for tomorrow. That that free pass of a first game kind of goes out the window tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the mentality that you should have too. And it's difficult as a competitor to look at that first game and say, you know what, whatever happens, we move on to the next one. Let's just learn as much as we can about the conditions and the rocks and go forward from there. When you don't get the win, it's still afterwards frustrating. You can't help but feel that way, and you should if you're a competitor.
It does. I will say though that it does take some pressure off when your first game's against some guy named John Schuster. I don't know if you ever met this guy.
Yeah, I don't know what he's done lately, but he's done some things in the past.
Yeah. So it always is nice when you can take some pressure and you can make a couple good shots and feel like there might be a boxer's chance until you can let that get to your head, and next thing you know, you're staring at five of the other team's rocks in the forefoot.
We're killing a little time before the start of the game as the opening ceremonies have pushed things back a few minutes. So you get entertained by Vince and myself for a little while. We might end up talking about different sports and whatever else is going on in the world until we actually get the game going. But fun event to be at. I've remarked already multiple times about how much I enjoy Kalamazoo, mostly from past successes that we had here. But Vince, being your first national championship event that you've been at, what types of things did you do coming into this event, besides the fields that you played in? But was your preparation any different for the Nationals than you felt like it was for other tournaments that you played in this season?
Yeah, I think part of it was just the mental preparation more than anything. No matter what spiel at when you're going to be competitive, you're going to work on your mechanics. You're going to make sure your slide is clean, your balance is there, your release is consistent. But for us, it was really all about the mental side of it. Sometimes we always tell each other the biggest opponent isn't the person with the other color rocks. It's the one that's in between your ears. And for us, it was just making sure we stay confident. Remember that, and I hope every team here remembers that. There were more than 16 teams trying to fight for this. We earn our spots, and every team here did. And in some respect, as much as you want to win, you never want to lose the perspective that it's just an honor just to be among some of these greats. And trying to never lose focus on that has been one of the best ways to prepare. It's kept us loose, and we've had fun. We've been playing we started playing better. We actually won an A event in a Bonspiel just this past weekend in mixed fours. So it's always nice when you can take some pressure off that and just go into this week feeling good.
And that's the thing you talked about, the mental preparation for a tournament like this, and the national championships always does feel that way. We'll go to the matchups for tonight. TC and Dropkin, Sheet A versus Nickel and Nickel. Sheet B, Taylor Anderson, Ben Richardson versus Podol and Perry. Sheet C, Strauss and Casper versus Bookout and Wiesa, pardon me. And Sheet D, Anderson Stopera, our feature game, versus Mullaney and Sinnett.
Kind of got an intrigue on Sheet B. It's Mayfield alum and Ben Richardson against my current roommates for the week with Podol Perry. So I got a little side eye watching this game here, just watching for some friends.
Well, it's a lot easier to watch those side games when you don't have mixed doubles going on. The men's and the women's, there's a little more time to look around. With the pace of these games, your head's spinning trying to keep up with all four sheets too. You do have the graphic there again. Sarah Anderson and Andrew Stopera facing off against Sydney Mullaney and Chase Sinnett. That will be our feature game tonight. And we do have player mics for this draw, so be able to lay out a little bit and let you all listen into the players as well as ourselves. It always makes the draw more interesting. Some pretty good talkers out there.
It's always nice with the mics because from up here we can't hear everything. We can sometimes take a good estimated guess what we think the shot call is going to be. But with the mics, we can let the players call their shots, and maybe we can provide some other analysis about what we think about it or what the results were. But it's going to be a good experience for you guys watching.
That is the biggest challenge doing commentary for mixed doubles, is not always knowing what shot they're playing because there's no skip in the house for a lot of the shots. So if you can't hear what they're saying, then you're kind of taking a guess based on where the rocks are set up, what they might be playing. I've already been wrong a few times through one draw on what I expected them to play. See Coach Mark Lazar absolutely airballing a high five with his player Andrew Stopera so far. What do you call 0 for 1 on high fives for them for the week. I believe that's a percentage of 0.
Good thing is this is only their first draw, so they got the rest of the week to get that act together. So, once they get that first high five, pressure's off. You start making them all the time.
I did talk with Bill Stopera, Andrew's father, briefly before the game tonight and asked him if there was any particular game plan or any information for us going in. And Bill said Coach Mark Lazar always has a plan, but he's not allowed to give it away for the rest of the tournament for tonight. He said, just do what Coach Lazar says. I don't know that I would follow that advice. I was coached by Mark one season in juniors back in 2003. For the most part, we listened to him. But yeah, that in life, maybe I don't know that I would follow that advice. But for curling purposes, maybe you can get away with it.
He gets a little deference. He gets the coach title, so we'll give him credit there.
It would be fun to have a mic on Bill Stopera during this game just to hear his commentary on what's happening.
You got to wonder
Extremely
what the parents what they think.
Yeah, miking up parents during a game, probably not a good idea. This would just be for our own entertainment.
Agreed. If my father were ever mic'd for any sport I've ever played, it would never be appropriate. If there was any kind of swear jar, he'd be the number one donor.
So we are ready to get underway. I promise for the rest of the week you won't have as long of intros and just listening to the diatribe here in the booth, but with the opening ceremony, schedule was changed up a little bit. So we are ready to get underway. The opening end for all these teams in Pool B. Sarah Anderson with the first shot, playing same sheet as we called for the opening draw. We did see some more curl coming off of the wall side, and talking with Marcus Cleaton, who's in the booth with me from this Kalamazoo Curling Club, said that that's a common thing, despite the fact that there's infinitely more curl than they're used to having for their club ice, that there is more curl usually coming off that wall side. Vince, did you see anything one side to the other with the curl or speed today?
In the practice, we definitely saw, with the curl or the wall sides, it curled away. And it kind of looks like you see a little bit of that on the opening shot. It's not quite perfectly buried. It just squeaked a little bit off center. So I don't expect to see, anything different than what we saw in the first draw.
Chase Sinnett with his first throw. Chase will be throwing the first and fifth for his squad. Sydney Mullaney throwing the second, third, and fourth. Vincent doing the commentary for the men's and women's. Really impressed with both these players. Chase Sinnett setting up his team with Team Casper, making the finals, and Sydney Mullaney, just a consummate shot maker at the second position for Delaney Strauss, another team that made the finals. The future's bright on the men's and women's side with those teams.
Yeah, absolutely, and they've been a really fantastic doubles team too. I've actually been on the wrong side of playing them. We were in a Colorado Cup, and it was a game where they just could not miss, and it was one of those where you just were able to just sit back and just enjoy and just watch good curling. So the future is definitely bright. It's excited to see the success that Chase has had, especially with World University games earlier this season as well. The streak that Team Casper's been on has been fantastic and just fun to watch.
Nice draw by Stopera there, just behind the tee line, but does bury behind those two cornered stones in the top of the 8-foot.
We have a technical timeout, or what's going on?
Something with the clocks, I would assume, seeing as we have no. And they're asking to add some time back to the clock. Every little bit counts in these games with the very short amount of time that you get to play.
22 minutes goes by real quick when you're on the ice and your blood starts pumping.
Sinnett trying to hold this line to get around those rocks in the top of the 8-foot. Based on what we saw earlier, I'd expect that to wreck. Just barely does.
That's still a good spot, though. They can't throw another one in, and the hit gets a little risky if it hangs.
Andrew Stopera playing his out turn. Looking like they're playing at least a bump on this line with the room up next to the rock. Looks like probably at least board weight, actually. And this is where we've seen rocks run straight on players when the weight is picked up a little bit, but this looks like it's turning over.
This might over curl on him if this clips in there.
I think that one surprised Sarah a little bit with the amount of curl, and that was coming off that wall side again where we've seen the most amount of curl on this sheet. But with weight like that earlier for that opening draw, usually ran a little bit. That one looked like it turned over a little harder.
Yeah, that definitely overcurled more than they were expecting. And that was, I would guess that probably from being on the far side there, throwing away from the board. But it normally what we were seeing, and we were on a middle sheet, was just that it was running a lot straighter on hits, even at board weight.
Sydney Mullaney sweeping her own stone, trying to make hit and roll here. It's really taking a cut. And a little more curl maybe from the hits than we saw in the first draw. As both teams having one jump where it curls more than they expected. And from up here, it definitely looks to be the same. That's is getting a little more curl than they did during that first draw on these hits.
It'll be interesting to see how the ice behaves as we get further in the week, and whether or not this was just a one-off thing, or if we're going to see consistently more curl on this sheet as the week progresses.
Andrew Stopera playing this in-turn draw. You see the broom all the way outside of the middle of the 12-foot circle to try to get to the button. It tells you how much curl they're expecting. This looks like it's going to need to turn over a little bit on this line.
And they got to get around at least one in the 8-foot. So, you want to give yourself plenty of room on that. It's like it's finishing quite nice on its own.
Really walking down now, actually hitting the brakes too. Good spot, but actually left it short of the freeze.
Short of the freeze, but I think the way this end is being set up, since they're starting without hammer, giving up one isn't the end of the world here.
Well, only giving up 1 point in mixed doubles almost feels like a steal.
It really does. It really does. You feel like you expect the other team to get two. So if you can hold them to one, you're doing something right. And then you go into having hammer with a little extra confidence.
Mullaney playing the out turn. Sounds like hack weight. And nicely played. And really, Vince, it looks like they're protecting a score of more than one at this point. With only the one redstone in there and all these rocks around it. They're thinking getting rid of that stone, maybe they have some kind of way to chisel that redstone out on their last if Stopera and Anderson can't get another one in here.
They absolutely have to get something in there, because the way that the rocks are angled in the house, it's setting itself up to get picked out. And as long as that rock gets at least a piece of the 12-foot, Mullaney Sinnett's going to be in a really good position. So if you can get another one in there to create maybe like a backboard, something to where you can't pick that out easy, it really makes yourself in a better spot.
So Anderson's final stone here for her team in the first end. Just playing it. Looks to be maybe an in-turn freeze to their own stone. On a similar line to what Andrews was.
Similar to his, he's really got to carve it, but he's doing a fantastic job at it.
That puts it at a good angle too.
I think they got the freeze they were trying for before on that. Looks like it's right up on it.
It's very close for shot rock. Sinnett believes they can get two by hitting about a quarter stone. They can't touch their own that's on the tee line on the left side of the 4-foot from the overhead view. As if that rock moves out, they're only playing for one.
They don't mind losing the one on the back, which is the old sacrifice your pawn to get the queen play here. But I think no matter what, with the weight they're going to throw, that's going to happen.
That's how you know we have an intellectual in the booth, ladies and gentlemen, with the chess reference for this final stone. So looking to hit maybe a quarter of this rock. Looks like it might be over curling a little bit.
Close to nose. Yep.
So somebody scored 1. Looks like they're pointing to yellow right away, and it's no argument from your team. So will be 1 point for Mullaney and Sinnett here in the first end, and they lead Sarah Anderson and Andrew Stopera 1-0 after 1. Back for the start of the second end here at the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. First game for Pool B between Sarah Anderson, Andrew Stopera, and Sydney Mullaney and Chase Sinnett. Start of the second end means it's time to talk about Warm Room Hero. Is your curling club website clunky and unworkable? Are you tired of your club relying on social media because your website just does not work for your members? Finally, the curling management software your club has been waiting for is here. Check out Warm Room Hero at curling.club today. Vince, throughout the tournament in Denver, we made as many jokes about being clunky and unworkable as I think are possible. So we may just leave those out unless you come up with something good. Just to spare the viewers, if you did watch during the men's and women's repeat jokes that we had throughout that competition.
I will definitely be pulling up my thesaurus to see what words we can swap out for clunky and unworkable. See if we can find a good one.
Yeah, hopefully our good friends with the Warm Room Hero, Windy City Curling, Anthony DeArco, Christina DeArco, are fine with us swapping words in if that's the case, as long as the message still gets across for their wonderful product.
Probably a tap freeze thing.
A nice freeze to start the end from Chase Sinnett, excuse me.
That's the nice benefit with mixed doubles, is that even if you are without hammer, sometimes that's almost a better position to be. You can lock that first stone where you want it, either frozen or top of the button. It actually sometimes is almost better than playing without hammer, especially with how you force play to the middle.
Vince, what were you getting for hog to hog times for draw to the button?
They're like
for the
fighting the
first draw?
forefoot.
We were
this
getting
side.
over
Like
15
your LSD
seconds on the
pad.
hog to hog,
Okay.
and it seemed as you
Yeah,
you start
got it.
wearing down the pebble, you start getting it picked up speed as we were playing on our sheet.
07. Back
Quick spin
eight.
around the other sheets. 2 games with a 3-point end to
Back
start off,
eight.
with
Thanks,
TC and
boss.
Dropkin putting up 3 on nickel and nickel.
How's line?
It's fine.
And
Good,
Taylor
T.
Anderson, Ben Richardson,
T.
with the 3-ball in their first end against Podol and Perry. And on sheet C, a pedestrian 1-point
Okay.
end. With
Seeing a little symmetry here, left side getting the 3-ball and just ones off on the right. And it looks like the two teams that got their 3
I just
are
got a
in
little up.
really good spots to set up the second end.
Yeah,
with,
that's all right though.
Well-made
I
first
got no
shots.
7.
Andrew Stopera playing the outturn draw. 3 rocks all lined up for backing in the back of the forefoot. So with the all-important positioning, very important to try to get something above the tee line on this shot for the team with the hammer. top button would be perfect here from Stopera if they can get it. Looks like it's going to glide right back to that pile again.
It's like right on the backboard there. Sometimes that's the hardest shot, I feel like, in doubles, when you know you have a backhand, but you don't want to use it until later.
I'm thinking the same
and
way.
you throw a little too heavy, and next thing you know, you're giving the other team an even better pocket to sit on.
Same weight with just a touch less ice.
Just right down to it, yeah.
You got it. Yeah.
So here, 4:05, they're talking about for a split where they think
Figure
that
add
would be
14.
close to back ring
Backboard.
weight. So that does play into what Vince has said about how fast the
Gotta go.
ice is. Split over 4:0, still being back ring. That's
T.
greasy fast.
This is not your regular curling club ice, that is for sure.
And this is by design, too, from head ice guy Sean
Good
Olison. I like calling him ice guy as opposed to something that sounds more professional. That's they're looking to get this type of curl for draws because it plays into the mixed doubles game.
Good throw.
So even though it
It
does
had
tend to
more
be a little
carry with
weight
that ad,
sensitive,
so I
that
just
also
misjudged it.
rewards
But
accuracy in draw weights. and
okay. I can
fast
hear you.
shots.
And that's the name of
I thought
doubles. It's all about being accurate on those draws. And as difficult as it can be for new curlers, I am so grateful that I started playing this really early in my career as a curler because it forced me to get better quicker and own up to getting better and being, focusing on improving your draw shot, your sweeping technique, because it's not like you can hide behind two very good sweepers. Sometimes it's just you or your partner out there, and it focuses on those small misses.
Another one of those situations with rocks piling up in the 4-foot.
You got a nice pocket they could sneak in on either side.
Still plenty of room to play through the house weight, the hack weight, and get to the inside on this stone. Trying to kick in. You could really make this with anything from hack to draw weight. They're electing to play enough to use the backing to try to roll in. This looks like it's curling early.
Hard.
That's the nice thing with throwing the hack weight shot over a heavy draw, but this might get a little too much curl than they were expecting.
Hard.
This might be the story of the game here, Tyler.
Okay.
Kind of worked itself out though.
That's all right.
Yeah, really good sweep there to
Really
hold
good
the
sweep.
line
Genuinely, that was like
by Mullaney. That
They
that
really,
looked
really
like
good
it was
weight.
going to get a big
It was
piece of
probably
that rock in the top eights, but
and I was like,
with just the redirect still ends
I
up
actually
in a
thought we were
pretty
gonna
good
get
spot
by
in the top
top
of
eight
the
one
4-foot.
and like
So
kind of go through the port.
that's
Yeah,
the
I was like,
extra time in the
Yeah.
gym.
Sorry.
It gets those extra half inches
right.
that you need.
The weight was really nice, just a little tight on the slide. Your setup.
I got to get back in the gym. Otherwise, I don't think I would have made that sweep.
So I think that was good weight.
That's how we used
Set up
to
in the hack.
encourage each other when we
might have
get
been
those
like the
sweeps on
push,
those
yeah.
types of shots. Then a reminder of that the extra work is
Four,
what
1, 2,
creates
3,
those
5,
things.
2, 3,
That
they're one.
it might only happen
And now we
once a
have, like, that
game,
easy
but
way.
that might make the difference in the win or loss too. So we'll see what happens with the rest of this end if that rock ends up being a big factor. At the
Yeah.
very least, it's taking away that draw path from Stopera and Anderson.
Looks like it's gonna.
And the other really nice thing about that shot is it's forcing them to throw the other side of the sheet that they have. No one's really been throwing too many on this side, this end. So
And it comes up well short there too. So opportunity now for Sinnett and Mullaney.
15-6 on that.
Tap that yellow stone up, get shot rock. And I think, Vince, if they catch this in the right spot, they could sit as many as 3 with that little bit of separation between those 2 red stones in the back of the 4-foot. Yellow may sit 3 if they tap this in just the right spot. It should, I think, be 2. But with the overhead view, it's hard to eagle eye. We know they can sit 1. We'll find out on the other 2.
Okay.
You definitely
I
want to
think
go
staying
for the
kinda close
1
to nose is
here.
pretty good.
The risk of the 3 is if you go for it and the angle's not right, you might give
It'd be hard. but
Anderson
maybe if
Stopera a
the weight's
similar
right.
shot that what
Yeah.
you were looking
Okay.
at if you're Mullaney Sinnett. Just you're
I
just
like
one shot ago,
the,
and they
like,
tried that
bottom
hack
from
weight
the
bump.
cobia here.
I like that
So
too.
you got it. If you're gonna go for it, you got to get it. But you really, I think your goal here is just make sure you're sitting 1 when the dust clears after this shot.
Yeah, this is a shot where you're playing the tap, and if the line is right, you can sweep to try to move that back red stone.
Okay,
But
stay
the difference
close. Line's
between the
pretty good.
tap to sit 1
Girl.
and the tap to maybe sit 3 really
Girl for
isn't very
nose, yep.
much difference in weight. So
Right
it's
to it,
all
you
about
got
the
it.
line.
Hard
If you
sit.
have the line correct, then you can sweep for that extra
Hard.
distance.
Roll it away. Roll it away. Roll it away.
They
Ends
got
up
the
too
bump for the
thin.
1. They hit that a little thin, but still a good shot.
And there may be a
Okay.
shot for 2, though, off of their
Sorry.
own now in the side of the 4-foot.
No, that's fine.
Only have to move that rock a half a
Yeah,
foot.
Ran. Yeah, because it looked like it was.
So
if it
there
was
is an
right weight, it
opportunity
would've been
for
a lot
2.
better,
No, I
like, run
think your
fine.
line was right. It just was heavy.
Okay.
You got to be careful with how some of those rocks are lined up. That might mess with the red in the back if they don't catch this thin enough. But you're right. With it not being a ton of weight you need to throw to move it,
Because you still hit like an
you
8.
could probably get away with how the ice is moving with
We hit it like
a
almost
softer
side
hit
kick.
weight
Like
to get it to
actually.
curl still.
It really didn't move. Yeah, I'm actually gonna do that too. She's kind of trying the the lightweight double, like control weight and try to flop in and push it over.
This will be the final stone of the second end. Sarah Anderson playing an out turn in off. Possible chance for 2 points. Wondering if that even
We're ahead of them, so that's good.
squirts out the third yellow
I
one
have no idea about mixed doubles.
on the back
you
of
know?
the 4-foot on the opposite side if it hits just right. Doesn't look like we're going to find out, as this really needs to curl to get across the face. Don't think it's going to get there.
Just make it the little.
So it will be a
One yellow.
steal of 1 point for Mullaney and Sinnett there in the second end. After 2 ends of play, they lead Sarah Anderson, Andrew Stopera 1-0.
Fine on time.
Yeah.
Back for the start of the third end here at the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. First draw in Pool B between Sydney Mullaney, Chase Sinnett, Sarah Anderson, and Andrew Stopera. Tyler George here in the booth with Vincent Skebby, Esquire. Vince, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to talk about your upcoming nuptials in Las Vegas in May.
That's right. I can't wait to be there with you, Tyler. We're not getting married, though. Unfortunately, I met Harley before you. So I'm taking the mixed doubles plunge of marrying my partner.
That's the way to go. As long as you get along that well, if it works for you, then you know each other inside out. It works well as teammates. But I'd like to thank you from myself and everyone else that will be attending, that you're holding the ceremony and everything else involved in Las Vegas. It's very hard to turn down an opportunity to go to Vegas under any circumstances, but to see good friends get married and get to be a part of that, everybody's looking forward to it. So can't wait to get out there, have fun with you guys. Congratulations to you.
Thanks. We always laugh, though. We became curling partners and figured out how to play on the ice before we ever considered dating. And once we figured out how to play on the ice and started dating and all the fun stuff that comes with it, we realized just how much easier that is compared to being mixed doubles partners at this level.
Well, as somebody that roomed with Matt Hamilton for 4 years, it's basically like being married to that person. So I would say if you can be curling partners, that's the tough part. Then the marriage, that'll be the easy part. So shout out to my former husband, Matthew Hamilton.
I don't want to compare because I don't want to talk trash against somebody I got to play later this week, but I feel like Harley is a little cuter than Matt Hamilton.
Well, that's in the eye of the beholder. I can't argue, obviously, even though Matt's a very attractive man, obviously. So with this 2-0 lead, again, as we mentioned in the
just
first
back
draw
8, though,
today,
like not like a lot.
there is no such thing as
You got it.
keeping things open and playing defense in mixed doubles. Best defense being to continue to play offense. Now Sydney Mullaney
Weight's
throwing
good.
the
Back
upturn
8, back
draw,
12.
trying to come around and maybe tap that red stone in the top of the forefoot.
Coming
back
down.
of the
Back 4.
Keep that all-important top 4 position. This looks like it's really curling. Has to go to get by and run the play as well.
It looks like it's going to crash right in there. And yeah, the shot call is definitely there. And if you got a little bit of the inside of the red,
That's okay.
it's even better. But not a bad
That's pro
bounce
side
they
for
got
sure.
on it because it covers up quite a bit. Question is, can you draw around and get there?
I got 4-0.
The opening draw, we didn't see that there
I
was
got
really
4-0,
much
it just
difference
really,
in
like,
speed
died.
between the two sides, even if there was a little bit more curl off
Okay.
the wall side.
It must have just
But
been that.
it really looks like both teams are having trouble with the speed on that wall side coming off of the boards. They've come up short besides over
Okay,
curling
wait.
a few times.
Yeah, and sometimes
Yeah, I mean,
even if you're worried about the
I think
speed,
it
just
was
with
okay.
extra
It was
curl like
just-
that, it does take a
Yeah.
little bit off because the
That's
rock's got to
diving.
travel
Yeah.
further.
A nice tap made there by Stopera. Angles lining up well right now for Sarah and
Even
Andrew.
if it kind of goes top 8 on the center line,
You're
it's not bad.
Two great spots right there, right above the button. Even if they're not shot right now, good teams know you don't panic just because you're not always sitting shot.
Yeah, that position's so important in any kind of curling, but especially
pocketed
in
that
mixed
set.
doubles.
And I think it will curl
That
there.
You have the rocks
I still like
above the
this way.
tee line.
Because pro side, I
In the
still
top
good
of
with
the
freezing
4 foot.
to this guy.
Really prevents your opponent
Got
from
it.
getting to that scoring
Yeah,
space.
You got it.
Leaves the opportunity for you later in the end. The ends are very short, but having that position halfway through the end
8.
really gives you a
Good
good
ad.
opportunity to score multiple
Top
points
4.
and definitely keeps your opponent from doing the same.
Yep. What you don't want to do is be heavy because then you're just giving that pocket. And we saw a little bit of that in the last end where you're giving just opportunities for your opponents to just sit in there, cover the button, and then you're in the opposite situation where you have no room to get rid of those rocks.
Judge.
That's a good spot.
Really good judge.
This end is setting up about who's going to have the better angle when it comes down to skip stones.
Sydney Mullaney with a good freeze to those rocks in the top of the 4 foot. Now it's all playing angles for Anderson and Stopera, trying to move things around.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to trust myself that this is going to kind
Looks
of
like they'll be playing the out-turn tap
Which it did,
on
yeah.
their own stone. But they do always have that angle lined up on the opposite side. Even though yellow made that freeze, they can still play anything back into those two stones.
Yeah, because and like one that's hard to get
Playing
rid of.
that
And
out-turn.
always hard to get rid of. Sticking around somewhere.
This is where we've seen the speed come off and turn over late. But this one needs to turn over a little bit. Now starting to curl.
The way that they're throwing the rocks, they reach a certain point along the sheet where they start to really break. And it seemed
They're
when
shot,
we were
but I mean,
playing
freezing
and,
right,
and in
but I mean,
practice,
freezing
we
right
were
here.
noticing,
Even if your hair
especially
outside, that's fine.
on that far
I do
sheet,
too.
it's somewhere between the mixed doubles logo and the Columbia logo where it starts to really cut. And it seems like on this far sheet,
that
on
same
the
throw
wall
here is really
side,
nice.
it's closer to the mixed doubles logo than the Columbia.
I got 08 with your queen
And that's
ad,
really important
Yeah,
too.
time with your queen
It's
ad.
with
and that was going to be top button.
reading where that break point is so you can
got it.
anticipate the curl, because once it goes on ice that curls this much, it's gone. And there really isn't anything you can do with the line once it started curling on ice this swingy. So knowing when it
Same
takes
weight.
that break and getting it before it does is the most important thing if you're playing for line.
And then the next step too is knowing when on your partner's
Weight's
rocks
close.
does that break happen compared to what happens on your own. So you can help communicate that. And that just takes time, practice, and paying attention to it as a team.
Hard, get it there, hard.
Perfect line here if the weight's
Really good.
there. Boy, that's a great draw there from Sydney Mullaney.
Fantastic. Snuck it right there in the button.
Can't hand place that one any better. Well swept as well by Chase Sinnett.
We always make the joke sometimes. You know you have a good shot, even if you're not sitting shot, but you know you're in a good spot when you're making your opponents think and start using even more time trying to figure out what to play. So even if it's hard to tell who shot, looks like it's still Anderson Stopera sitting one, but you know you're doing all right if you're Mullaney Sinnett, where you just took away and you're making them think and burning that clock.
Looking around the sheets, if we're naming an all-hair team for this competition, I think 2 on the starting squad, no question, would be Chase Sinnett and Gabe Nickel. Thinking about it now with Matt Hamilton getting a haircut, he might not be on that squad anymore, unfortunately for Matt.
He might have to fire his barber.
Looking at these angles, trying to figure out a way in. The difficult thing for Anderson and Stopera is anything they play with weight, with the way the angles are lined up, would likely spill some of their own stones as well.
They're in a tough spot, especially because even though Mullaney Sinnett missed on that first draw behind, they still clipped the guard, opened it up, and covered both sides of the center line. You know, with that miss, it's almost put them in a better position because they were able to follow it up with a couple great shots. And the other thing too, with where Anderson Stopera is, you're past the point where you can start removing stones, but you're almost too late into the end where you can't just throw the bailout shots and start peeling and hoping you can get a look at it. You have to commit now to a heavy draw kind of a game with right now your back's against the wall. So there's even more pressure on throwing the perfect weight.
Little surprised that they played this with as soft a weight as they did. This ends up wrecking the guard, but it looked like in order to move stones in the right spots, they would have had to play it with a little more weight, but regardless, it does wreck. So Sinnett and Mullaney now have a chance to position themselves even better.
Interesting to hear the discussion of what they want to do. It seems like they want to get another one right there in the red paint.
Should I just throw weight then?
Come look at it before.
Well, this is an interesting decision because they're talking about throwing weight and losing both of those reds. I'm wondering if that yellow stays in that area or spills off a little bit, because if it does spin, you may end up giving up a shot.
I think when I threw that other end,
Points.
so
If they didn't throw this rock right now, I don't see how Anderson and Stopera can get more than one with the way the angles are set up. I'm thinking maybe just play this with a tap to get shot rock and don't move things around at all. Just get shot and you may end up stealing a point.
I think you do.
Looks like they're going to try to move things.
To make sure we get
It seems like they're going for the steal now strategy for the end, and it's just like what you talked about at the very beginning. Your best defense is a good offense. There's a lot of teams right now that would say, you know, or look at the situation, and even if you're not shot, be comfortable giving up one with how the angles are and just trying to throw junk. What you don't want to do is peel, open things up, and see if that gives life to your opponent.
Okay. Just a little tight.
9.
Okay.
Just
tight.
9.
Okay.
Well, it looks like if they just
Twist and slide. Seemed okay.
paper by that top yellow and the top 4 foot, clip their own red, this may be for 2.
Well, this isn't easy, so.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't just play the tap there, Vince. It looked like if they just moved their own stone a couple inches, that they're kind of locking up the steal of 1.
I guess there's probably never too much here almost. Because even then, I guess
one thing, if you get hungry eyes sometimes on the ice, that's what I say. Is, you know, you start thinking about
they're throwing it away too.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be pretty good.
Didn't look like it was there for, well, I suppose you probably couldn't spill in for a second point with that rock on the back of the button anyways.
Yeah, 1 red.
What they were thinking.
Take your one,
It's one red.
try and set up
Yeah,
for a steal
thank
on the
you.
next end. You get
Thank you.
tied going into the break. Not necessarily a bad game plan.
So they will get forced to a point. After 3 ends of play, Mullaney and Sinnett 2, Anderson Stopera 1.
Twin Cities Orthopedics is ready to go with more doctors, specialty services, and convenient urgent care locations. Ready, set, TCO.
So beginning of the 4th end, Sydney Mullaney and Chase Sinnett leading Sarah Anderson and Andrew Stopera 2-1 here in the opening draw for Pool B of the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Again, the winner of this tournament will go on to represent the United States at the World Mixed Doubles Championships in Gangneung, South Korea, a place I'm very fond of, Vince. That's 5 years ago, myself and a couple of buddies played Spiel over there for fun and came away with some fancy coasters.
Some inspiration to a lot of people, including myself up here. I never threw a rock till I watched you guys win gold. So
Well, yeah,
thank you guys for what you guys did.
Hey, you see that, you think of those guys.
Said
can
it out
do it.
loud,
Man
right?
alive.
Thought the same thing, and then
We
you
better
said
give
it.
this a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to admit it, but watching the third play, I was like, I could do this.
Ah, that artistry. It's hard to repeat that delivery, but it's a nice draw to the top of the button.
Felt like a lot.
Right where you want to be.
Perfect position to start the end for Sarah Anderson and Andrew
Okay.
Stopera.
You let it come down a bit. It's still got a curl.
Saw with our first draw
Okay,
today
let
that
it
an
come
early lead certainly does not mean that the game
It's
is
always
over.
curl still. Line's good. though.
4-1. The Burrs
Sit.
were leading Vicky Persinger and Chris Plies after 2 ends,
Okay.
and the roll was on for Team Persinger Plies after that with got forced to 1 in the 3rd and then 3 consecutive steals of
Probably
2
makes it anywhere close.
after that. Fun game to watch. A lot of rocks in play. Shocking for a mixed doubles game that would be the case.
Definitely. And no lead is safe in
I
mixed
think it depends where
doubles.
the sun's up.
I can say from personal experience, a 6-point deficit with, halfway through the game is nothing. When you can start making shots and start chipping away, you start building your self-confidence. You're taking away momentum from your opponents. Next thing you know, you got a shot for 3 for the win, and you have nothing but confidence you're going to make it.
Another nice draw there for Andrew Stopera. Great setup to start this end for the Red Stones.
That's dead buried, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only down a point, no need to panic,
I
but
think we freeze here.
this setup they'd love to
Okay.
A little tap's
find a steal.
okay.
Okay.
Just biting the 4.
It's a good setup. This is what you wanna do if you're playing for the steals. Just control the middle, control the top house, control the top of the button.
Okay, 0-3.
They talked about a tap here. Sydney Mullaney playing the intern side, trying to come around that guard, but again off this wall
It's like a
side,
2.
ends up short and over
2.
curling. So definitely seeing a trend with the draws on the wall side of the sheet going away.
The interesting story throughout the week is going to be which teams make this adjustment as they play on this sheet a second time, and whether or not they're going
I
to
think
try
it
and
was a
force
tight
their
pass, so it
opponents
just
to
came
play
down.
it, or
I just
you figure out how to make
Okay.
those shots first.
You heard Sydney say that she thought she just dropped it, meaning that she pulled it back a little bit on the release, but
Chase.
I'd give Sid a little bit margin for error there with how much we've seen these draws dying and over curling. Now Stopera playing the same side, like maybe they made a little bit of an adjustment going out a little bit wider. Trying to get to top 12, maybe even top 8 if they can carry it that far.
Put himself in a nice spot with a biter close to center line, taking away the angle. They don't have the shot they just
Outside
threw,
nose.
so whatever adjustments you want
Just
to make
outside nose on
from
the yellow.
your last
Yeah.
shot.
You might catch
it's gone.
this. You might catch that. Either's fine.
Yeah, I see the drag.
See if they can lose all 3 of those guards with how tight they are. This may drag a little bit. So trying to clear both guards and the biter that Stopera just threw if that redstone does drag. So Mullaney trying to hit this a little bit on the high side, but this looks like it's curling to the opposite side of the stone.
Right.
So we'll
That's
only
right.
clear the 1. Shooter does roll off. Still angles playing in favor of Anderson and Stopera.
Right?
Yeah.
Even though it
Just on
opened
the
it up a
setup, I
little
like
bit,
it a
you
lot.
still have
I
to
got
deal
to
with
Get off, yeah.
your own rock as a
Right.
center guard,
Still
and
gives
with
us
that
options.
that
Now we have
biter
that. We have
Andrew
this.
just
We have
threw,
that.
you're still taking away the path to really kind of shake things up in the forefoot.
I thought about it, but then
Send the red into the house.
yeah, I'd also rather just like clear up make it open in the house. 'Cause, like,
Stopera playing
right
the
now, that's
outturn
open.
side now.
Hit the red this way. I mean, I'd be able to spin the button.
Maybe a
red
little
off the yellow
faster,
and out. So that's why I
straighter
was
side.
like,
Not
let's clear the middle.
straight by any means, but by comparison.
Like that again.
That's a testament to the
We're
good
definitely
ice we've
second.
got
I
this
don't know
week,
about
but I
third,
really
but-
like this call.
And I'm not like
All it is just making sure you're controlling
that's
both sides of the
fine.
house, but this looks like it's curling quite a bit too. See if he can hold it. Little bump's not terrible here, don't you think, Ty?
Yeah, if you unlock a little, you can cover up that red for the run, and there's no, I don't believe there's a hole
there if you want to try it. And if you get the guards, it probably wiggles through
Chase
anyway.
thinks that there may
Try
be.
it.
Yeah. And if you get the guards, it's probably still wiggles through
Maybe
to freeze. Probably still wiggles
just
through
a
to freeze.
rock
I think you still
wide.
throw that peel. I think you
So
Well, what
trying
I-
to just throw at the hole, basically.
What I like about the communication on that is even if they don't get it and they open things up, that's an okay concession because
Can
you're
I
just
have a hair
hoping
more,
for
Chase?
you're just hoping for a chance when you get that get to your last shot to try and get something. But I love the confidence they instill in each other of going for it, making sure that's what they want. Love hearing her say she wants to go for it. That's what you want to see.
So if you get through the hole, you make the shot they're playing. See if Mullaney can hit this port. Does clear both guards
good.
and the rock in the top of the 12 foot. So that's
That's good.
still a great result. Now this is open, even though the angles are playing still to
Threw that
Anderson
one
and Stopera.
Yeah.
Gonna be
Like
difficult
Broom,
for
I also got 7-3.
Okay.
But that's fine. That's
Sinnett and
besides the point.
Mullaney to score here based on where these rocks are set up.
Yeah, my brooming was for.
And this is all
throw.
coming down to what
I
happened
was
in the
not
very
gonna take
first
more,
shot
because again, I'd
that they
rather make sure we did
threw
what we did.
to set this up. They
We
didn't
almost got it
freeze
to the point where you could
directly
back
onto that
into it.
one in the
Yeah.
back four. They set up above it. They let the rocks play out. Next thing you know, you're sitting in a really good spot, covering the pin right up above it.
Vince, would you be tempted to play the little tap to sit 2 here, or just play your guard and secure the 1 with the 1-point deficit?
If it were me, I would be going to secure the 1, go into the break tied, and playing without hammer and the confidence if I were throwing first and last here that I could make that first shot on command. An end like this would give me the confidence to keep it going. So I would be cautious. You never want to fly too close to the sun.
Yeah, my question is right now, how does yellow score? Even if they didn't throw the shot, how do you move that red stone off the button with where those are lined up?
This is where we need the John Madden touchscreen where we can draw the angles, throw in the sound effects, the onomatopoeia. With where that center guard is, it takes it away. You could have tried some kind of double, spill everything out, and hope your rock comes to rest inside
Just enough
That-
separation between those reds that you could maybe get the back one to spill. But now, yeah, with the way the angles are set up, I don't know that that's there. The opposite side of the stone would be the one that you need to hit.
This could just be a question is, are they just going to concede the one like we just saw in the last end?
Yeah, they will throw this one away. So 2 concessions of a point and 4 ends so far. With that going away to the boards, and get the early jump on the 4th end break, brought to you by Warm Room Hero, the intuitive curling club software that takes the stress out of schedules, registrations, and more. Warm Room Hero, a platform built for curlers by curlers. Check out Warm Room Hero at curling.club today. And with that throwaway, it will be a steal of 1 point for Anderson and Stopera. At the break, tied 2-2.
Let's say you're in high school and there's a sport you like, but sometimes you think, you know, it might be cool to try a new sport.
End up with a corner guard on the other side of the sheet.
Twin Cities Orthopedics is ready to go with more doctors, specialty services, and convenient urgent care locations. Ready, set, TCO.
At the break, you see the scores for all the other matchups here. Sheet B, TC and Dropkin leading nickel and nickel 6-0. Sheet C, Anderson Richardson 6-2 over Podol and Perry. Sheet D, Strauss and Casper 3-0 over Lookout and Wiesa. And again, our feature matchup here on Sheet E, Anderson Stopera 2, Mullaney Sinnett 2 is coming up to the start of the fifth end. Tyler George back here with Vince Skebby. And Vince, not a lot of opportunities for big scoring ends, all singles so far. A little unusual for a mixed doubles game, but it could be a 3 or 4 lurking anywhere when it comes to this format.
Always. And it's all about angles. And what we've seen so far in this game is both teams controlling top half of the button, top half of the forefoot, and controlling the angles to where those opportunities for 3 and 4 just aren't happening. And we've seen 2 concessions already where the other team is just getting the better of those.
Sarah Anderson starting the action for the second half of this game with in-turn draw, and the teams are favoring this side of the sheet. They feel like the speed and curl has been a little more consistent than they've seen on the wall side, or at least it's what they're more comfortable with.
I think it's definitely a comfort thing, and sometimes what you want to do is you want to try and force your opponent to make the uncomfortable shot. And in this case, it's throw on the uncomfortable side of the ice. We've seen a lot of misses on that board side.
Chase Sinnett's first, playing that in-turn draw, trying to freeze to Anderson's stone. Needs this to turn over and sit to not bounce off. Just bounce a little bit, not bad.
But you still give them the angle that they can sit on that and play with it later. But objective 1, try and be shot. They got it.
Stopera following suit now with that same in-turn freeze again.
If they feel like this might be a little heavy, they might be just trying to bump this.
Trying to get it to turn over to get to nose. Sits in the back of the forefoot, so Anderson Stopera sitting 2. Not in bad position. But again, we're seeing that wall of rocks in the back of the forefoot that's accessible for a freeze.
You're creating a nice pocket to sit in. But what's interesting now is you're seeing them throw on this wall side. So we'll see if they can make the adjustments after the fourth end break to make this shot.
Pretty wide right now. It will curl, but it's pretty wide right now.
Weight's good.
You hear him communicate it. It will curl.
Okay, always curl if you're going. Line's fine.
Weight's
They're
good.
really turning over now. Line not a problem at all. If anything, may overcurl to clip that rock. Just sneaks by.
Yeah.
So, Vince, that's a theme that we've seen with teams getting deep or leaving those rocks behind the tee line.
Sorry,
That
it was a little
shot
more than I
rock
thought.
has been
That's
in a
all right.
position.
I
that
thought it
takes
was less
2
than it
shots
was.
to move it out
You
of
threw it
that
well. I
position
just misjudged
because
it
of
a bit.
those freezes. So, with only being able to throw 5 shots in an end, all of a
weight is
sudden
perfect line.
you're having to use at
think
least
to go for,
40% of
the
your stones just
more
to
solid
move
roll, but it's really
one
easy.
rock.
Yeah.
So
Like, if
that's
I
so
knew it was, like,
important to
hard
get that position.
Yeah.
Even though that's a little behind the tee line,
This is so hard.
it's not going to be something that they can move around to try to set up a multiple point end.
Correct. And I think when you reach this situation, the question that Anderson Stopera is going to have here is you don't have hammer, you're tied 2-2, you just stole after a force. Are you okay with a force here, or can you just throw another one in and control more of the button? It looks like they're going back away from the wall side, away from the pocket. They may think that this might curl and put themselves in a better position for the angle for a better scoring opportunity later.
Watch how much this finishes. His last one curled so much. Like, look at that.
Trying to tap this red stone up now, over curling a little bit. Looks like yellow is still shot rock, but pretty good position.
This way. Like, we're gonna lose the shooter, but it clears it up a bit.
Yeah. What kind of weight?
a good amount, at least firm.
Sinnett thinking that they can lose all three of these red stones now with
We're losing the shooter no matter what, so we may as well throw
Peel
Peel.
weight.
Let's throw Peel. We just saw that twice.
What?
I like Peel. You just saw it twice.
3/4.
I think you want to hit at least as thin as 3/4, maybe even 2/3 to try to make sure that that top one spills too. Not much distance between those two stones, but here is Sydney Mullaney thinking that they can lose all three of these if they hit it in the right spot. Line looks very close. Maybe needs to get up just a little bit.
Curl.
Good.
And does, and there they go.
Sorry.
Great shot.
Really well done there.
Very well done. You don't want to catch that one thick because you're going to get a jam and just make it worse. So the fact that they
That's good.
can recognize that and make it
Good throw.
is
It,
very
just
impressive.
need to curl up
That
a
was a
little more.
fantastic shot to keep things open.
It was a little more of a
The only problem,
set.
though,
not
with
not
the
an out,
result
just like a
is
set.
you're still sitting
Um,
two
but I think
behind T
The
line,
size I really like,
and you're still given smaller
7-4,
backboard
which is about what I got.
for your opponents to draw into. But you got to take
Which
what
I
you
think is
can
good
get
feel. That's what
sometimes
I
in
usually aim for
curling.
anyway. I just need to
And I'd say that's a risk-reward type of thing, Vince, where
that'll give us plenty of
yes, there
opportunities.
is a freeze, but you're sitting two. There's only 2 shots left in the end for each team. You have hammer, so you're willing to give them that freeze opportunity. If they don't make it, you could still have a 3 or possibly even 4 set up based on where this ends up.
Amen. And it's just name of the game. It's making your shots. And looks like they're letting this thing curl in.
Line's
Seeing a
very
nice
good. It's all on
finish
the way.
These rocks. And these sweepers are doing a great job of carving them in.
Pretty good spot there from Stopera. Stops just a little bit short.
Their shot.
It is shot rock.
We can do this. With like back line,
If you're not,
half rock goes over top our back one.
they're sitting in a good spot here. They're well under cover. So I think the question is with how curly
We let
this
her try to
ice
free-
is,
Great.
can you throw a heavy draw? Can you pick it out, get back to sitting 2 and force them to do it again?
I'm good with Peel. Yeah.
Yeah, they were talking about
No matter what.
back
Yeah,
line.
I
I
like that.
I
Well,
think
I'm
I
on
would
the shot
play it
line.
with a little more weight to try to clear that stone and force your opponent to make that draw again. Especially and
take like 2 inches off
with the
rim,
mixed
maybe 3.
doubles game. It's not the same person that'd be throwing that draw now, too. It's somebody that hasn't thrown in 3 shots. Make them make that freeze against a 3. And they are indeed playing the peel. I like this call if you can pick this off, but you got to make sure you get the guard if nothing else.
Right. Missing wide is not ideal here.
Yeah, that's a negative side miss there. And that's the funny thing is it's so close to, if it does catch a piece of that, you make the thin double and sit 4. But missed it on the wide side instead of making sure you get one or the other. Now that tap or draw to the
For a
top
second,
of
I
the
thought we
8
were gonna
foot,
get the double in the house.
and you're
I was
probably
like, if we skinny the
guaranteeing a
guard-
steal once
No,
again.
we skinny the guard.
Right, and this is the risk-reward part of throwing up weight on that. You have a rock that's a mid-guard. If you could throw peel and clip it, it's great. But I think
Yeah, I
the
thought, like,
percentage
if
of
we-
making it, if you throw even half, is all right. The risk is, of course, if you
So
play
because
it
we
too
just don't
tight,
really
you
have-
get too
we didn't have a
cute,
visualization of it for
and you might
which
risk
made it harder. Like maybe if I had held
and
the
just
brim
giving
like that.
them the shot that they're probably going to throw here.
Scoreboard on the screen says 2-1, but it is 2-2 in the 5th here.
Well, I'm pretty sure at most they're getting is 2. They're getting
Mullaney and
because
Sinnett
even if they
have
tap, it's
hammer.
frozen,
No,
and
like,
even if they tap,
it's like fine. I just like feel bad because that's a shot. that
Just
I can
hanging
make
out
this
now,
one time.
trying to carry this down to the 4 foot.
I think a good
It's like a lot
lesson.
of weight.
all the way to
Yeah.
exit. Yep. All the way to exit. Yep.
Where they may have the exact same shot
Going, keep
for
going.
4 now. And this is definitely a risk-reward situation, Vince. I think you got to have a go
Maybe like
at the exact
I
same
think
shot
hold.
they just threw.
We
It
try
may
probably
end
tap
up
and try to score with these 2.
possibly
If we get
clipping
the
the
third, we
yellow,
probably hit
but
it this way.
it's worth it to play it thin because
Yeah.
it's a chance for 4. It's a shot you can win the game with. And if you don't get it, you get up to steal a 1.
I think
You still
half.
have your power play left, and you're only down by a point.
Yeah, I think.
Right, and since it's only a tie game, you're still pretty early. You're not in panic mode if you give up 1 here. I like the idea of going for it, and I think that's what they're going to do. I think the discussion is probably would be
I think a touch more.
what kind of adjustment can you make
A little more.
to get it?
Okay, hers ran a little bit.
That looks like they're playing it with considerably softer weight with that broom. So unlikely that you can hit where you'd need to use the backing and move that rock far enough with this weight. So they're probably just trying to chip it out of the forefoot,
Weight's
maybe hit a
close.
third of the stone somewhere in there.
I think if you can chip it, if you can get a soft enough roll on your stone, you might be able to just sit
really close
This is really
there, too.
finishing nicely. It's going to over curl, hitting the back.
Hits the back. Will it
Keep
stick
going,
around for 3?
It's okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's
Not
close. but
quite,
Two,
but
yeah.
does get
Sorry.
2.
You're good. I forgot
I
about
got
that one.
11.5.
Good
Really?
effort there.
Yeah, which I think kind of
Yeah, you can see with where they hit that,
really great.
they couldn't hit it any
Hey, good call.
thicker to use that backing.
Yeah.
But
I didn't remember
any
this
thinner
was
wouldn't have
there, so I
moved
was
that
like, why are
rock
you
far
so-
enough. So I think that's the best they could have done with that weight. But it is a score 2. Nice shot by Chase Sinnett. Score stands after 5 ends of play. Mullaney and Sinnett 4, Anderson Stopera 2.
The everyday person may not aspire to be a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete. You may just want to be the best person you can be. You just may want to sleep better. You may want to feel better. Thorne has many products that can support all of those things. So it's not just about performing or running faster or jumping higher. It's those little things that go into having a higher quality of life.
So the start of the 6th end. Thanks to our friends at Floor Curl, USA Curling members are entitled to a 20% discount on any Floor Curl inflatable rink set. These rinks only take a minute to inflate or deflate and are the perfect way to promote your club at summer festivals, events, or anywhere you have a flat surface. No ice required. Visit usacurling.floorcurl.com. Use the promo code FCInflatable20. That's usacurling.floorcurl.com. Promo code FCInflatable20. We do have our first power play of the game. Anderson Stopera using it, and a little bit of a bad break for them there with Sinnett trying to play the tick on that corner into the house, ends up dead nosing it for a bump for shot rock. That'd be a tough one to make if you were trying to make it.
It's always a tough spot to be in this, and it's always fun meeting more and more doubles teams to ask them what you throw as your first shot when you're defending the power play. You see a lot of teams at this level go for that chip shot, and there's a lot of benefits to it. If you make it, you can open things up. You can give yourself a free center guard at the same time. But if it doesn't go the right way, you almost create a pocket. It can set things up for a big end for your opponent.
So playing the intern freeze and hopefully a tap for Anderson Stopera, trying to come around this corner guard, but looking well short and over curling. And again, that intern going away, ending up short. This time going inside out.
Sometimes I would say it's okay there because you might be able to open yourself up to make a run at that. But with how these rocks are moving on the inside out, I may not feel as confident throwing that as I would before.
Mullaney just trying to split the house. And the 8 foot on the opposite side with the way this is set up. In the house, still a defensive play here, Vince.
This is definitely the split force play if you can set it up. You got to be careful, though, because you don't want to give them rocks to hide behind, and you also don't want to give them some kind of a cross-house double that they can play with later. As they missed this one a little bit short if they were going into the house.
You know, it's interesting. to look at a track like that, you'd think they're in the 6th end of the game, so everything should be up to speed. But there's really only been 2 or 3 shots the entire game that have been played down that center line area. So that track still may be a little slow, and you're seeing the same thing again now from Stopera. It's just not a line that you've played the entire game, Vince. So all these rocks ending up short, they may be throwing the exact same speed that they were throwing for the draw of the 4-foot path, but just no carry whatsoever because it's still fresh.
And that's going to happen, especially in doubles, where the majority of the game you're trying to throw from the outside in and control the 4-foot along the center. Very rarely are you casually throwing off the center line into the wings like this. So it wouldn't surprise me too if there was still some frosty lines out there.
See our floating spectator there on the left side of the screen. The guy's got the best seat in the house.
He's right up in there in the action.
You know, if it freezes right into that spot, it looks like it's a bathroom. As that picture sticks on the door, that's the men's room. So nicely done there with the adjustment on the weight by Mullaney. Now yellow sitting 2. And that second counter is every bit as good as removing a red stone. So there's really no way to make that rock count at this point. So if Team Anderson Stopera is going to score a multiple point end, it's going to have to be with these last 3 stones.
It gets harder and harder when they can split the house without hammer. And this is the game plan for defending the power play is don't give up more than 2 points. You expect your opponent to get 2, but if you can hold them to 1, it's like what we talked about at the very beginning of this game. A 4 sometimes feels like a steal, especially in doubles.
Really well done there by Andrew Stopera, and that is the one issue with that draw from Mullaney is that it's behind the corner guard, behind the tee line,
and then
so
they have the
any
other yellow
draw thrown down on that line that's even a decent freeze attempt.
We don't even have to be shot. Like,
hard to remove it. So in order to bump that rock out, you have to skinny that corner guard.
I think no more than you just threw.
Tap it.
I don't
so
think
they
the pass
probably
is
will
per
just
se
have
faster than
to
your last
follow
shot.
with a freeze of their own.
Yeah, and you definitely want to be a corner freeze on this. You still want to be shot. You still want to give yourself an angle to play with that later.
I got a 14 with a good ad.
The question's going to be, you threw this and you were like, can you make the adjustments to get this in? And you hear the communication
Bigger ad,
between
less
the
slide.
2 of them.
15, it should be
And
close.
They do it as well as anybody else in USA curling as far as communicating and helping the other person, helping their partner make the shot.
Wait's good.
Waiting for this to turn over to get to the freeze. Line's getting better now. Can't bounce on this line, though. And does bounce just a little bit, so just a little bit of a bruise on the sweep there, maybe. So there is room to clear this stone for Stopera. Try to set up at least a 2-point end. Like to roll away a little bit if they can, or roll to a freeze onto their own, one way or the other.
I like the idea of rolling into the wings if you're throwing the stone here versus trying to roll away on the cross house. Takes away the jam possibility. Get yourself in the wing. If you can sit in the 8-foot, that's just crazy.
You threw the same, and I was like, no more, and you threw the same. So like, I just judged it a little bit.
So out turn hit here for Stopera, trying to hold the line, not over curl and roll out. And does roll a little too far. Very close, but yeah, the yellow in the back of the 8-foot is second count. So the question is if it's third or fourth. That may affect where this rock is thrown, but it looks like this is going to be an immediate freeze for Sinnett.
The freeze is the quick answer. I like this call. Problem with where that
unless we're like pretty close to
with
nose.
how the fact that you got
then
that
we just
freeze,
stick anyway.
still got the little bit of a bump there is
Yes, I agree.
if you don't
Where did you
make
take your
this
broom?
perfectly and you can give red a look at it, the
Yeah,
question
the
is
red.
can they pop
Okay.
that
So you
out
take the outside
and
of the
get
corner guard
2 or 3 here?
or actually just take the same spot.
I think
corner
same
guard.
spot's okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want to get into new stuff either.
Yep. Pro side down here.
Yeah.
You
So
got it.
outturn freeze attempt from Chase Sinnett. His team's final shot of the 6th end. Looking to play right to the tee line.
Line's good.
Shouldn't be any opportunity to
always
remove this
curl.
stone if it's placed correctly.
Line's good. Still always curl. Full 8.
Sydney Mullaney trying to get this to turn
Hard,
over.
Sid. Hard.
Really needs to go for weight too. Line's fine, just has to go for weight.
It's okay. I just
Ends up being short again.
That,
okay.
The nice thing, even though is
Pro side
if
for
you're
sure.
short
Yeah.
here, and they
It
were,
makes them throw
was
different.
you're not going to give up
now we can
big at.
probably power play next time.
And I think
Either way.
if you're okay giving them 2
7,
on
10
their
tie.
power play, which you expect
Or
them
7, 10
to,
F1.
you get the hammer back, and
Okay.
you might be
What'd
able
you
to
first
set
look on that? Do
yourself
you
up
remember?
with your power play to score a crooked number.
Which I kind
I'm
of
not-
thought would be good.
I'm not
So this will be a
surprised.
draw to the
My
8
ad-
foot.
My ad was less than yours.
2.
And I very
Sarah Anderson. Looks like they're playing the intern draw through the easiest path. Just needing full 8. Final stone of the 6th. Stopera just cleaning so far. Likes the weight.
There's the curl.
Line's
They
just
really like
fine.
it.
Stopera just cleaning in and well thrown by Sarah Anderson right to the 4-foot.
Yeah.
So they will get their 2 to tie the game. Expect to see the power play in the 7th
2
from
red.
Mullaney and Sinnett after 6 ends.
Just because you're not a professional athlete doesn't mean that you should accept less. The beauty about what Thorn does is our product quality is the same whether they're in the athletic line or whether they're just for the everyday person. Thorn has kept true to never compromising on quality, never compromising on efficacy, never compromising on safety for not only athletes but for everyone who would use their products.
Back for the start of the 7th end in this first draw for Pool B at the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Anderson, Stopera, Mullaney, and Sinnett tied at 4. So at the start of the 7th end, Vince, why don't you tell us a little bit about Warm Room Hero?
Sure thing, Tyler. Warm Room Hero is more than just software. It's run by curlers, dedicated to building long-term relationships with your club. Warm Room Hero provides continuous support to ensure your website exceeds your members' expectations. Check out Warm Room Hero today at curling.club for special event pricing.
Well done, Vince. You got a future in the biz, I think.
I learned from the best, Tyler. What can I say?
So indeed, we do have the power play for Mullaney and Sinnett here in the 7th.
They're
Cool.
taking.
Go ahead, Vince.
I would say they're taking a different approach than what we saw with Mullaney Sinnett's power play. On the defense, they went to throw, or on Anderson Stopera's power play, pardon, they went to throw the chip shot. It didn't quite work out. Anderson Stopera electing to throw the tight center guard, which is my preferred call shot when you're defending the
What did
power
I
play.
take? Like the B in Columbia?
Is that a scoreboard thing too, Vince? Would you show that or throw that center guard if you were
Okay,
ahead by 3 points or 4 points as opposed to a tie game?
No, I think since it's a tie game, you want to go for the steal And the power plays are gone, and kind of what I was saying earlier, sometimes I'd rather be trying to steal in the 8th end in a mixed doubles game versus having hammer.
It's going to be curl if
And
anything.
knowing that your opponent
Looks like
already
it's coming
burned the
down.
one power play they get a game, if you can steal
by the
here,
guard.
you're in a really good spot to
Bring it behind
set
ours,
yourself up for a steal
or is it above it?
coming
It's
home.
curl either way.
Which is exactly got it. I feel like has to be the mindset
Yep. Bring it by, keep going.
for Anderson Stopera
Go,
here.
go,
which is just
go,
going
go.
steal at this point.
Okay, good.
Ends up coming around their own stone to the back of the 12-foot. So now
Down.
Anderson and
like
Stopera will play the freeze.
I wanted to throw more for that spot, but like not that
They're
much.
feeling the pressure to throw into the wings.
It did. I mean, the line was ended up being.
Sometimes I feel like if you're going to set up with a guard, you got to finish what you start here. And going into the wings isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if you get the wrong kind of a bounce, or you might give your opponents an opportunity to throw hit and roll and sit too, because they'll be able to start, removing stones here.
That's a really good
That's
shot
a
there.
great shot.
Perfectly placed by Stopera.
Just like back 12.
Do we ever get rid of the guard?
We rip that. They come under here and sit 2.
Okay.
I'd rather do something with it.
Yeah. Back 12, you said?
Yeah, just enough to push this yellow over
There you
here.
see the clocks for both teams, both with a comfortable amount of time, right around 7 minutes for each.
And Tyler, I think that was the biggest adjustment I'd make to competitive curling, was learning
Mine's
how
good.
to play with the pressure of time.
I think it might be really heavy.
Okay.
But I think at this
curl
point,
then.
I've learned how to really
Curl.
thrive under it and
You
play
might
with
still
good
get repeats,
tempo.
yep.
And sometimes I think that
Hard.
helps, and you can get yourself into a quicker rhythm.
Hard. Okay.
Yeah, just looking for back 12, back line on that shot, and ended up being
I really
all
like
of
this
hack. They
one.
be
I got 11-7 on it.
almost bored, so
That's okay.
not getting to the
Yeah,
line they
slide this
wanted
maybe.
to. And inside out shots, both teams struggling a little bit with their weight control.
It's possible. I think it's more of a guess.
Now maybe getting
I
a
was thinking
little
you
quicker
make
with
that. It's a
more
good
stones
setup
being
shot.
played down
It's a
those
good call, I'm
lines.
saying, like, I missed.
Yo,
So-
yeah.
Stopera
like,
now
it's very
playing
possible. I think it's just
Out
the,
turn
like,
around that center guard that they
the other
threw
side would be
earlier,
guess,
and here's
like,
where
going out there.
they can use that to their advantage.
Oh, okay. Well, now I'm almost like.
It's good that they're coming back to it, and that comes down to
Yeah,
taking
'cause
the
you don't really have much of an option.
throwing that perfect freeze, getting the benefit of a miss, and you can come back here, sit 2.
Never mind.
If you can
Came down.
control the 4-foot here, even the button, you can really change the momentum. Where this is going, this might be a little deeper than what they were maybe hoping
Who knows
for.
if it's nice.
Yeah.
Ends up just barely behind the tee, half buried.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think you'll see Mullaney and Sinnett now ignore everything on the wing, so
They're just back button.
Okay.
play back to the center of the sheet with
Yeah,
that
that's
center
okay, but I
guard
would
and
like
the
the
rock
freeze.
in the 4-foot. 3 stones to throw. See if they can manufacture a 2 or 3 with these last 3 shots. Is very unlikely that those 2 yellows will come into play with that freeze
make
that
sure we're at the
Stopera
guard.
made earlier in the end.
This puts you in a really bad spot if you have the power play hammer, because you really like it when you can force play into the wings, spread things out. Now you're looking at a smaller score zone, so getting 2, getting 3 gets even harder.
Okay. That's okay.
Ends up touching the guard and still sitting 2 for Anderson and Stopera.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's an okay spot for it.
The weight was close.
I like the weight a lot.
Yeah. Just a little tight.
It was probably going to tap it like a few inches.
Yeah.
It's like they're discussing
just a little
maybe
more line
getting
is all
rid
we
of
needed.
the
Sorry.
stone that was just thrown.
It's not a bad spot for
Get
it
it
to
on
be
the
in.
inside, control the middle.
I think they're hitting it. I think they're hitting it, judging by their broom.
They are playing that with what looks like a soft weight hit.
Yeah.
A little surprised maybe that they're chasing this stone as the number 5 counter.
Perfect. They're
When
gonna have the freeze
they
again.
could take that draw path
Or some
away.
sort of, like,
I know they're trying to roll center, but do you
Depends on
need
where
to
it is, I
hit the
guess.
stone to do that? Are they that afraid of
I think if we have
that
that
stone
freeze
being
option, I think it's
used that they
probably
feel like they need to hit it?
It does.
Benefit, probably.
You're giving your opponents an angle to run that in. It's not a
Might make the double on the back.
necessarily complicated shot. for Mullaney Sinnett to make.
Should go
So
into this pocket.
if you can get rid of that, that really helps. The other logic is you can't give
You're
up a
right.
big end if your opponent doesn't have that many rocks in the house.
I guess my question would be, you
The
see that
triple's almost there.
roll end up going too far.
Over
You know,
top.
did you just leave your opponent an opportunity to still get there too by playing that shot? Because if you just played that out-turn draw into
It
that
might be
hole,
too flat.
then you would have taken that line away and forced him
Which
to move
is
2 stones.
This
They're
triple.
looking at the possible
He's
triple
just
to see
making
if
this
they
freeze.
can clear that red stone where that ended up.
Let's make the freeze.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what the discussion was always was we're going to make this shot.
I think your weight was
no
real nice
questions
on that
asked.
last one.
And, sometimes you got to take the step back and think about all possibilities. You never want to put doubt in your head as a curler
I think
whether
just
or
that
not
touch
you're
more
going to make
ice.
the shot. But you always have to think about all possibilities and what do you think
Yeah.
is going to give you the best
But
outcome,
I
the
don't
best
wanna miss the
probability
double.
of
Yeah.
the right shot.
I think if you
being
make the
made.
middle double, you're over top of the red on the side.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's always like you have to kind of play the triple no matter what.
Nope, I like it. I'll just take a little more ice here.
Yeah, you got it.
Would you finish split there?
It looks like the way
was
that the
a-
angles play, if they were going to
a
move
good
that
edge.
side red one, the third red stone that's half in the 8 foot, it probably dead sticks. So they're just playing the out
Little less bigger
draw
ad, though.
instead, which I think with the way
Gonna have
those
to go.
angles play, this is the
What?
right shot.
Gotta go.
If you
Okay,
can find a
yeah,
2 here,
Mine's
you
fine.
get a
You got
very
lot
good
of
chance
room
of winning
right
the
now.
game. You can score 2 with these last 2, which again goes back to what we just talked about with
You gotta curl
should you have just
hard.
played that draw to take that
You gotta
path
curl
away
hard.
instead of playing that hit and roll.
Chase hard as far as it'll go.
Yeah, and this gives them
Hurts.
just something they can just walk down and throw
That's
in.
okay.
Sorry, good
Little
That's all
light,
right.
but they can play with that later.
It's not bad.
Sorry.
It's okay. We might be second. I didn't get to look.
That ends up a little short, so good position again for Anderson and Stopera.
It's close either way.
Tyler, I got to ask you one thing. I'm hearing Mullaney Sinnett, when they're talking about the
I still lost
shot,
weight.
you got your shooter in
Mine
the
was really
hack, and they're throwing out the words of encouragement. Hey, you got this. Did you ever have any kind of talk you wanted to hear from your teammates when you're sitting in the hack, or did you want to hear like nothing?
I'm trying to think about like.
Yeah, I usually didn't need to hear very much in the hack. On the way down, it's fine.
I'm thinking like.
If I asked for some information, was basically the only time
We take it.
I'd want to hear
As
something.
long as we're not
Otherwise,
messing up.
the encouragement
I agree.
after the
If we jam,
fact
if we
is
jam,
good.
then
But
whatever.
I didn't need to be told you got this. I always felt like I had it without somebody telling me, and anybody I think should feel that way. There are players
Yeah, I feel like
that they really want to hear
Worst
that. I've
case scenario
said a million times that
okay, if it's
maybe
one
once
for
every
them,
tournament or once every
or
few
one for
games,
us.
I use that as a motivating factor for Matt Hambleton. I'd tell him it was a big shot. We really want this one. And he'd get up to throw those because he loved those situations. But that's a mental trigger for him. Whereas for John Schuster, once he got in the hack, he never wanted to hear anything unless you're talking about the speed. Never an encouraging thing or anything like that. Just information is all he would want. I was pretty much the same way. It didn't really affect me one way or the other that much, but I wouldn't say it was a positive or a negative with the encouraging
triple
thing. It was just kind
It's
of
two ways we
there.
can make it.
So
Hitting
it
that
all
first
depends on
one
the
thing,
player.
like, over
And
top of the five
there are people
is
that
the one
need
for,
to
like,
hear that
three
every
minutes
single
before.
shot. They want to hear that,
Um,
yeah, you can make the shot. And there are people that say, if you say a word to me by the time I get down the hack, then I'm going to knock your head off. So it's
Over
it's
top of
all
the five
about
for sure gets
preference,
that one.
and that gets from learning about your teammates, which with a mixed doubles team, you have
the other
one
one's gonna be
person
more
you
solid,
have to figure out.
making
That's
this
it.
straightforward
You
double.
don't have to have
And if
3
we touch
people
that
that,
red,
okay,
even
each of
thin,
them
we might outcount
individually are
this
going to be
eight.
different. I need
Now
to
we
learn
flag
how I
two,
can
but it
talk
might
to
still be
each
worth
of
a
them.
shot.
So
Though it looks
I'm
like
sure
we
they
get the winner
figured that
already,
out,
so.
and I would hope that what Chase is doing with Sydney is what's encouraging her, and that she likes that type of positive feedback in between teammates. Usually by this point, you've figured that out. So playing that intern tap, playing it, try to steal it too. Good shot, but that may have actually opened up a chance for a 2-point end now. Depending on where the shooter would end up with that short run, there may be a raise for 2 if they can just make it right into the pocket. I think the shooter would
3/4 to no.
maybe get enough of
Yeah,
the
I think
8 foot to outcount that.
Nose for
stone
sure
that
is great. But making sure
Anderson
we get
just
by
threw.
and push it in is good. too.
Yeah, and the
So I
nice
think we
thing
can nose
too
jam on the
is
back-
you
on
don't
the
have
back
to
left
throw
corner
a ton
and
of
still
weight
be
to
shot.
make the shot. You just have to get
Okay.
You just have to get them out into the 12-foot. I think the real question is
I'm thinking I'd take edge
just
8
the way that the angles are lined up.
with the tap weight, because I'm
red
playing like
rock
probably
that's
back 8,
to
back
the
12.
right side of the center line.
Okay. Because I just want to make
If
sure
that
we're to
if
it.
this yellow goes right into the pocket, is it going to jam in and
Yeah, and I just want to make
prevent
sure we get
prevent
to it right.
two from happening here? Because it's going to be closer than where your shooter is. But the only way we're going to know that is if he makes this, and let's find out.
So final stone of the 7th.
Soft ad.
Chase, it looks like they're only playing the tap. They're not playing it for 2.
Stay close.
So we'll never know.
Yep.
But
Whoa.
this tap opportunity against 2 points.
Curl to it.
All
Line's
important
really
to
close.
not give
Hard.
up the steal of 2.
Hard, Sid. Hard.
He's getting close now. Needs to
hard.
come up a little
hard.
bit more.
Hard, hard.
I like it.
Don't know if they outcounted that second red or not. It's very close. Looks like a steal of at least 1
I think 1
for
red,
Anderson
yeah.
Stopera.
1 for sure.
May end up spinning
Probably.
the sticks for a measurement on this one.
A little excitement
So
here.
who knows?
7th end, tie game. Yep. Looks like they're calling for the stick.
This is a very important
so
point
close.
here. The difference between a
They tried to,
1
but-
point and 2 point deficit, even in mixed doubles, significant going into the final end. So we will wait and see. What's your call from the overhead, Vince? We're going to go for
I
our
mean, if you want to agree, it's yellow.
our
we'll bring
first
it.
commentator call of the week. I'm going to go with yellow.
That's the one I would go with. It looks like yellow's got a little bit more on the inside. They did bring up in the player meeting some of the houses are a little funky, so they told us in the team meetings, when in doubt, measure.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because then that gives me an excuse if I'm wrong. That the pin must have been off, not my eyeball.
I am just here to help you out, Tyler.
So our first measurement we've seen of the
1 red
competition,
for sure.
measuring
Yeah.
for a second point for red.
You'd much rather only give up 1, be down 1 coming home versus down 2. Gets harder without the power play. Try and manufacture it 2 here.
And it is yellow. I'm 1 for 1 for the week, baby. 100%.
Batting 1,000. Nice job.
Haven't missed yet. So it is just a single on that steal for Anderson and Stopera. Mullaney and Sinnett will have hammer in the 7th end. Down 5-4 going to the 8th.
The everyday person may not aspire to be a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete. You may just want to be the best person you can be. You just may want to sleep better. You may want to feel better. Thorne has many products that can support all of those things. So it's not just about performing or running faster or jumping higher. It's those little things that go into having a higher quality of life.
Eighth end of play here in the first draw for Pool B, the 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Sarah Anderson, Anders Stopera leading 5-4 over Sydney Mullaney and Chase Sinnett. Mullaney and Sinnett with hammer in the final end. Tyler George here on the call with Vince Skebby. And Vince, again, only 1 2-point end for both teams throughout this game. The difference now being that steal in the 7th for Anderson and Stopera. So the most exciting end in curling, down 1 with the hammer, up 1 without the hammer.
And in doubles, it gets even more exciting because you really put yourself in you can manufacture a steal a lot easier in this situation with the center guard already in place. And you got one behind the In the back four, good first shot here really changes the outcome of how this end gets played. Sarah's been making these shots, so I don't hate their chances. Andrew's trying to finish this one right there.
That's really well done by Sarah Anderson to start this end. Both teams with moderate amount of time, 3:46 remaining for Anderson and Stopera, 4:02 remaining for Mullaney and Sinnett.
Plenty of time. Plenty of time. You get the nice thing too is you know what your objectives are going into this end. The scoreboard's going to dictate. You either need to steal or you got to score 1 or 2, and you'd much rather try and score 2. So the question isn't going to be what are we trying to do here? It's how do we put ourselves in the position to make these things happen?
Sydney Mullaney really carried that a long ways to get it to the top of the forefoot. That's a very important sweep. We saw that all week long in Denver with her and Rebecca Rogers making big sweep after big sweep for Team Delaney Strauss.
Good sweepers can really bail you out. And sometimes I almost prefer playing front end in some of those games because even if I'm having an off shooting day, I know I can make it up to my teammates by really carrying their rocks and making sure they make their shots.
Another nice shot there from Andrew Stopera. 4 rocks in the forefoot to start out.
It's like they want to try and just get something in there and move it around.
I can't hear you.
You want to answer that question?
Can I hit the guard?
Yes.
Yeah, you can hit the guard.
Okay, so
Yes,
if I
you
miss
can,
the
Sid.
pipe, we don't have to put it back.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
They can hear us too, like we can hear them.
I
Right?
hope so. Then again, if
thinking,
I'm
like,
on the ice,
if
I
you
don't
can
know.
throw
I feel
normal,
like
I
I'd be
like
really
that.
nervous when I'm starting to hear your voice in my head, trying to figure out what shot to throw.
I think control minimum to make sure
Oh,
we
that's
kick
the end of
something.
your sanity
All right,
then.
10-5.
You had a good
Like
run.
10-5?
Yeah.
Well, could have been worse.
So they will play the out-turn soft weight hit. Just trying to move both of these red stones around.
Girl.
I like the
Girl.
call here.
Hard curl.
I like it too. If it
Close, hard.
overcurls and you clip
Hard
that
to it, Sid,
guard,
hard.
that's okay. They're not really
Hard.
in danger of that.
Hard.
But the nice thing is you can try and get some separation.
Ends up just skating by. Touches that stone and moves
10-7.
it to
What?
Frozen.
It was like a set. It wasn't like an out release. It was a release that I liked really, and it was 10-7, good weight. It just held it there more than like a normal cleaner release would.
They're forcing
not the end of the
forcing play to the middle. It looks like they just
Still,
want to
like,
throw
coming down,
something
like, even
top 12, top 8. Capitalize on the missed shot there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably some sort of peel.
So Andrew probably just lobbing another one into the top of the house around this center guard.
I like this call.
Try.
Just force and play into the middle. You don't want to give any weird angles that they can throw. Just keep trying to mix things up. They got on that missed shot by Mullaney. They moved and actually forced that yellow rock that's top 4 closer and more undercover. So it almost took away some of the angles that they were trying to play with.
Yeah,
They
we're
had no
gonna
choice but to just peel guards here.
If you
Possibly
make it
see
well,
some
you probably
fireworks.
get to here,
See how
but
many
I
of
think
them
that
they can
clears it a
move.
bit. If not, kicking this through.
That's fine.
Peel. Just a
Important
little
shot
more
here
than
for
3/4.
Sydney Mullaney trying to slash this over the top, make the double peel, and run that second stone back into the pile. Try to move these around. Any contact they make with those rocks in the house, Vince, would be a good result here.
Absolutely. This is all about just getting separation. At the bare minimum, the peel is okay because you can just open things up and hope for a path and a line.
That's good.
Not bad.
That's better.
Boy, if that hangs just a little more, it would have been a great result. But does move those stones around.
That was really close.
Only 2 stones left for each team. Yeah, as Chase Sinnett said, that was really close to a great
Still have
result.
2 minutes 30 seconds for 2 shots and a timeout.
But they'll take that. You get that separation, get that space in there. You got a path in now. You might be able to clip some of these rocks
But if we run the
that are sitting in the 4-foot biting the button. So all in all, not too bad. They'll take that.
I'll have some sort of like double run thing or a draw around. Yeah.
The angles for any run-in aren't great for Mullaney and Sinnett now. Stopera playing the intern draw. See exactly where they try to leave this stone.
We probably call it on this one. So because the last one, because the last one we probably know what we're
Should
throwing.
expect this to curl.
And they're just trying to guard the run and the hole at the same time, maybe half and half. Just need this to
This just
sit.
goes just across center line, which looks like it's going to be. Well done.
So the run will still be there on that tight red stone. Timeout called by Mullaney and Sinnett. They're going to take a look
I mean,
at
we
this.
get this. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, like essentially.
You want to take the time
Yeah,
here,
nose is
figure
really good.
out.
Sticks the yellow buried.
It's
You
really
don't want to
nothing
rush
like
this
the worst
shot.
if
So
this
I like the
sticks
idea of
around
using the
for seconds
timeout,
somewhere.
figuring out what you can
'cause
do.
we're
But
always gonna have a
sometimes
shot
it's
at
nice when you
this.
can use the timeout.
Yeah, I mean, I like that
Also to
it's
think
just
about
Yeah, which is why I think nose is
what
really
your
nice.
next
if you'll
shot's
get this
going to be.
nose.
kind of wait, still peel.
And not
That's
feel
fine,
as
Bill.
rushed.
I feel like you've seen that a lot.
But
Yeah, and
sometimes
it's really not the end of the
that
world if
game
we end
clock,
up like
you just
doing
got to
stuff
think.
like that.
Okay.
You're always thinking 2,
Because the
3
main thing
moves
is
ahead, but you got to
making
put
sure
your
there's a
focus
shot
in
here.
on that.
Yeah.
Now one shot at a
Just
time.
get
So
stuff in the house.
the
Let's-
timeout here is not a bad
Nose?
way to just make sure you're on the same page for the next few shots here.
Sounds like they're just playing for nose hit in the conversation. They'd like to leave the shooter there so they can use it on their last if need
Do you
be.
like this ice?
Also would take away
think it
any
could be close.
perspective
Yeah.
takeout for Anderson Stopera. Sydney Mullaney's final stone here in the 8th. Just looking for a nose hit run back. Very close here.
Just needs to curl there. Came right there to the
Good.
nose.
Right.
Good shot.
That'll
A little
work.
unlucky on the result with the angle.
We still have another run, so it's
was
not
so
all
close.
hope's not lost yet.
Literally anymore, and it was like dead stuck. Still really good. As I have to look at it, it's nothing crazy easy.
Yeah, if you're playing this smart, and Coach Mark Lazar out to talk about this, we don't have their players'
not
mics
really
working,
anywhere we can
unfortunately, to
I really
listen
thought it was
in
just
for
very
this team.
good.
But
It's good.
if that yellow rock
The
is
other two
gone,
are
there
like,
is
I
no
know
shot
filters,
for the
that's white
win.
one and the blue one.
With that
Light
being
blue.
second shot, they could also just play it more aggressive to try to win right now with a draw around.
Oh, yeah.
It's maybe with mixed doubles, you're not as
Well, especially the
focused on
alternate
trying to
side,
win the game right now, or
just dead main.
trying to make sure you secure your force and taking hammer to the extra end because it's that much easier to steal
They almost have
in
to
mixed
play.
doubles. So maybe they do play the come around and try to win the game now. We'll find out.
Yeah, I think you want to always try to take into account what do you feel more comfortable throwing, and doubles. It's very much a draw-centric game. So if you feel more comfortable and you can find a path to make the draw, great. If especially if the hit can be complicated,
Yeah.
if they feel that the hit is a lot
Basically,
easier to
like,
make and they can just spill it out,
Just to nose of the
empty it
yellow
out,
of the one in the house. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
but it
take
didn't
that,
Literally though, 'cause we
take your chances in the extra end.
No, curl more. Like conceptually it crossed the face, so we hit yellow too thin, or like.
It's like I thought that it might be
It didn't
setting up for
actually,
the
because we
hit
both rolled
here.
This way, but that's kind of like the energy it had,
I get what you're saying. I think they're just playing to remove. Like,
Yes.
shoot to one end.
They just want to clear it.
You should just have a straight draw then.
Yep. Yeah, I think they're just
So
trying to
final
clear it.
stone, it looked like they were playing some kind of hit on that red stone in the top of the 8-foot, depending on if they're trying to come in off of that stone or if they're just playing it into the yellow.
It does. The goodness is no matter what, we'll have
With the
time.
weight they're playing, it looks like they're definitely trying to lose that yellow.
She's got it. She got like half.
This is the force. The question is, can you get a good angle on this and make it all go away?
On
But
it straight now.
ran real straight, but
Just good enough as that
How much do you have?
red rock
Can you
sticks
make
in
it
the
a
back
stick?
of the forefoot. So they are still sitting
I don't
2.
know if you have very much of it. You can
Don't
it
definitely
might
think-
just
make
be a
something
run
for
for one. I don't know if they can make
Yeah.
the
I'd
run
like to make something for
and
two.
keep their 2.
I'm almost wondering if we play this,
Yeah.
like throw
I
the
really
guard.
think it's whatever you want to play.
Well, this is almost dead buried. So like even throwing enough weight.
Well, the
like,
thing with the
it's a
angle
dirty
run
shot.
that
Can you
you
stick
could
it
possibly
left
make
back?
thin for 2 off that rock in the top of the 4s
You're
is
good.
you could stick it for 1.
I don't even know if
we'll
we'll be
listen and
shot
see what
if
they're
we do
thinking
that.
here.
Off this one.
You also, do you have this or that jams, right? That jams.
Well, that'll jam if you try to go this way. And even if you go this way, we probably lose the yellow to get that angle. Planning to stick it, it's that one. And even if it ends up dead
You don't have to
jamming,
tell me. If you want to throw this, I like it.
I think that's the best option.
Okay, yeah. No, I like what you like. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we looked at like options for one.
Yeah. To make that double, the red double, it's like 7/8.
So this is there possibly for the win if they just paper that rock that's biting the button on the inside and then stick on the one in the back of the forefoot.
It
It
doesn't really
could
matter 'cause I don't call
miss
sports.
that yellow biting the 4s and possibly get 2,
I
but
was
they
like,
also
I really
could just
wanna
stick it for 1 if the raised rock sticks. So unfortunately for
What kind of way
Sinnett
are you
and
here?
Mullaney, those 2
What is
misses
your
are right
wheel?
around the one shot
75.
that would roll out and the game would be over. So final stone here of the 8th end. Chase Sinnett, angle run back, possibly for 2. Looks like it needs to fade back a little tight. Get a redirect though. Not
No.
quite. So it is a steal of 2 for Anderson and Stopera. They will take the 7-4 victory in this first draw for both teams.
Good game.
In
I was going
Pool
way
B.
more fast than I thought.
Vince back and forth. Wasn't really any point in this game where it felt like either team had much of an advantage. Just a really tightly contested game.
No, and
I
that's
tried to do this.
those are the games you want to watch, especially for doubles, because this is a game that could have gone either way. It came down to the last zone. You know, Mullaney Sinnett made the choice to try and go for the win, and as a couple of my friends would say, sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit. Just this time, no bread.
So that will be the final.
Don't.
7-4, Anderson and Stopera
Yeah.
able to get that all-important first win. As we said, kind of feel like that first one is a bonus, but they will be tied atop the standings momentarily for one draw with 3 other teams. And we will be back at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning for draw number 2
It
for
was definitely
Pool
red.
A. Feature game will be Matt and
I
Becca
would do the same.
Hamilton
I would forget.
against Vicky Persinger, Chris Plies. So former teammates all around in those games going toe-to-toe. That'll be a fun one to watch. So join us back tomorrow morning. Vince, thanks for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure having you, and good luck the rest of the tournament.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate having me up here. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully I can be back up here.
Again, final score for our feature draw. Sarah Anderson, Andrew Stopera 7. Sydney Mullaney, Chase Sinnett 4. We'll see you back at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning for
That's
feature
like,
game. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I don't.